There are horrors that lurk in the shadows, nightmares that claw at the edges of our sanity, but the most terrifying monsters, they look just like us. Tonight, we take you deep into a story that should not exist, a horror beyond fiction, where the boundaries between predator and prey blur into something grotesque. A nightmare of hunger, obsession, and death. A man who did not just kill, but consumed. This is the true story of the Cannibal of Rotenburg, March 2001. A quiet town in Germany, Rotenburg, was about to become infamous for one of the most grotesque cases of modern cannibalism. A man in his early 40s sits at his computer typing, looking for a willing participant to be slaughtered and eaten. This is Armin Meiwes, a seemingly normal man, polite, educated, even charming. But behind those eyes lay a hunger unlike any other. He had one desire, one fantasy, to consume human flesh. The screen refreshes. A new message appears. I want you to eat me. He had found his perfect victim, Bernd Brandes, a man just as twisted, just as disturbed. Brandes wanted to be eaten. He craved it. Meiwes and Brandes met in the depths of the dark web, where the most horrifying fantasies are whispered. Brandes, a man with an unexplainable desire for self-destruction, answered Meiwes' call. They exchanged emails discussing every detail, the tools, the preparation, and even which parts of Brandes would be eaten first. Brandes, I want you to use me, to consume me, to make me a part of you forever. Meiwes, I will, your flesh will become mine, we will be one. This wasn't just an agreement, it was a ritual. Brandes arrives, nervous but eager. Meiwes waits, a polite smile masking his monstrous intent. On March 9th, Brandes traveled by train to Meiwes' home. He knew what awaited him, but there was no fear in his eyes, only excitement. He had fantasized about this moment his entire life. Inside Meiwes' home, there was a clean kitchen, knives gleaming under dim light. The night started with the dinner, an ordinary meal for what was to be an extraordinary event. They sat across from each other talking about life, about death, about the moment that would soon arrive. The two men raise a glass, toasting. A sharp kitchen knife rests between them. Then the time had come. A dimly lit bathroom. Brandes lays in a tub, his body trembling. Meiwes approaches with a knife, his face emotionless. At Brandes' request, Meiwes cut off a piece of his flesh and cooked it. They ate together, but Brandes, weakened from blood loss, began slipping into unconsciousness. A clock ticks loudly in the silent room. Meiwes watches as Brandes' breathing slows. For hours, Meiwes waited. He watched as Brandes drifted in and out of consciousness, but something was wrong. Brandes was taking too long to die. Meiwes later admitted that he sat beside him, reading a book, checking on him occasionally, until he finally decided to end it. Meiwes stands over Brandes' lifeless body, his breathing steady. He reaches for a large knife, and so Meiwes did. He ended his victim's suffering and stored his remains in a freezer, eating from it for months. He had finally fulfilled his deepest fantasy, but the hunger remained. Meiwes wanted more. The glow of a computer screen illuminates his face. Once again he types, seeking a new willing participant. He returned to the internet, searching for another victim. He believed there were more out there, more willing souls who longed to be consumed. But this time, the police were watching. A SWAT team burst through the door. Meiwes is caught mid-typing. When the police raided his home, they found videotapes, recordings of the entire event. The court called it the most disturbing evidence ever seen. Meiwes' trial sent shockwaves through the world. Could this even be considered murder if the victim consented? The court was divided. Meiwes sits in the defendant's chair, his face calm. He speaks. He wanted this. At first, Meiwes was sentenced to just 8 years for manslaughter, but the public was outraged. The prosecution pushed for life imprisonment, and in 2006, he was sentenced to life behind bars. Even now, he dreams of the taste of flesh. Even now, he fantasizes. The hunger never left him. If you think this story was terrifying, remember this. It was real. The monsters we fear aren't in our imagination. They walk among us. The Black Forest, a place of ancient myths, whispered legends, and unspeakable horrors. Its dense canopy swallows the sunlight, turning day into twilight. A place where shadows dance unnaturally, and where for centuries, people have claimed to hear whispers in the dark. Some believe they are the echoes of lost souls. Others know the truth, because deep in the heart of this ancient woodland, something lurked. A cult so obsessed with power, so consumed by ritual, that they would sacrifice human lives to satisfy their twisted beliefs. This is the true and horrifying story of the Engelwurz Cult Murders. To outsiders, the Engelwurz commune seemed like just another retreat for lost souls. Nestled in the thickest part of the Black Forest, their compound consisted of nothing more than a handful of wooden cabins built around the ruins of a much older structure. A church, long abandoned, its stone walls cracked and covered in creeping moss. They claimed to be seekers of truth, students of the ancient ways. Their leader, Jonas Malbruck, was charismatic, enigmatic, a man who could make you believe in anything. He spoke of enlightenment, of purification, of the cycle of life and death. But behind his piercing gaze, something inhuman lurked. To the Engelwurz, death was not an end. It was an offering, a return to something greater, something older than civilization itself. And to complete the cycle, there had to be a sacrifice. Between 1998 and 2003, at least 7 people disappeared near the Engelwurz commune. Most were travelers, spiritual wanderers drawn to the cult's promises of transcendence. They came seeking enlightenment. Instead, they found horror. At first, no one suspected the Engelwurz. The Black Forest was vast, treacherous. Hikers got lost, campers disappeared. But then, in 2003, the first body was found. The victim was Erik Weiss, a 24-year-old backpacker, but this was no ordinary murder. His heart was missing. His body had been drained of blood, and carved into his forehead was a symbol. A detective studies the symbol, flipping through an old book. The pages reveal a dark ancient rune linked to human sacrifice. This symbol was traced back to pre-Christian pagan rites. Rites meant to appease the old gods, a sacrificial offering meant to ensure prosperity, power, and rebirth. Inside a dimly lit cabin, a wooden altar is stained dark with dried blood. Strange objects, animal bones, ancient relics, a bowl filled with something black and thick. Investigators soon uncovered something even worse. Erik Weiss was not the first, a hidden cellar beneath the cult's main cabin. The police break through a locked door. Inside, rows of bones, some old, some fresh. The Engelwurz had been doing this for years. The police found ritual books detailing the process of sacrifice. They found robes soaked in dried blood, and most chillingly, they found a list of names. A detective holds up the list. Some names are crossed out, others are not. The list contained at least 15 names. 7 had already been reported missing. The rest? Still unaccounted for. A police officer walks through the woods, flashlight cutting through the darkness. A distant noise makes him stop. Footsteps. Too many to count. The Engelwurz were still out there. Police move in to raid the cult's compound, but they find it completely abandoned. The buildings are empty, the fire's still smoldering. They had fled. Jonas Malbruck and his followers had vanished. Not a single trace of them remained. No footprints, no vehicles. It was as if they had disappeared into the woods. In the years since, there have been reports. Hikers disappearing, strange chanting in the distance. Some claim to have seen figures in robes watching from the trees. And every so often, a new name appears on the list of the missing. The Engelwurz may be gone, or maybe they are still out there waiting for their next sacrifice. If you ever find yourself in the Black Forest and you hear whispers on the wind, run. If you enjoyed those terrifying legends and stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more haunted stories. Until next week, sweet dreams.